This is my, I don't know if you want to call it a review or a fix or whatever, of one of these Chinese lathe chucks. This is an 8-inch 4-jaw chuck. I'm trying to put this on a dividing head. And I got the backing plate cut, you know, to fit the chuck. I got the thing, I mean, it's turning within that, the backing plate where this chuck sets against is 1/1000. I mean, when I turn the dial and I got the indicator on it, it's reading like 1/1000. So this chuck right here, the front of this chuck right here, and it's not, you know, it's not doing that, it's flat. And the problem I had was I chucked hold on a second, I'll show you. I chucked this reamer up in the chuck. Okay, I had the jaws all in there and everything. And this chuck was grubby inside. It was, you could see grinding dust in it. It was dirty. Anyway, I chucked this reamer up inside of here like this. Okay, and you can, it's got wiggle in it when the jaws are pushed together. Okay, and I had all the jaws in there. I adjusted the thing out. I mean, I had it down to 1/1000th run out in this shaft. Well, then I went up to about this height away from the jaws and checked it again. It was 5/1000ths out. I couldn't believe it that far out. I knew this is all running true and flat. So the only thing I could figure out, I went around here with a height gauge, set these jaws off the side. I got my height gauge out. This is sitting on a little surface plate. And I brought the height gauge in here. I brought it in here and I checked the height of this chuck. This and this down here is what controls the height of the jaw. So that height of that shoulder right there is very important. And the side right here against the side of the jaw is what controls it this way. But this piece down inside here is the part that's important to know whether this thing's, you know, crooked or not. And I went around here and I was very impressed when I did this, okay, with the height gauge. I went through here and I checked this thing, and it doesn't matter what number it comes on to, okay, that's about 42 right there, okay, on that jaw there. Alright, I checked both sides, and anyway, then I spun it around here. I checked the next one. 42, same number. Dang, right on the money. Okay. Same number, 42. I'm not worried about what number it is, I'm just worried about it's the same number. That tells me it's the exact same height. Okay. $41. Let's move it out just a little bit, see if it makes a difference. Yeah. It's close. It's 41. In here, oops. Caught the side of it. It's 41. So there's one of them 1/1000th of an inch lower than the other one. We'll see what the other side of it looks like. Okay. It's 42. On that side of the jaw, this side over here is 41 for some reason. But it's all within, you know, that one's a little tiny bit low, which is going to affect it, but I don't think it's going to affect it that much is what's happening. So I know that this is milled parallel with the back, which is parallel with my backing plate for this chuck. So that tells me, you know, all that's running true. That one's a tiny bit low on one side, but so when I put the jaws in there then, and so I know the jaws are running true now, and when I put the jaws in this thing, This stuff, just none of this stuff slid like this. This has all been, ouch, that thing's sharp. The tip of that height gauge. All this stuff was just like razor blades in here. And I spent like it did cut me. Spent like 4 or 5 hours with little files cleaning all this stuff out and stones and cleaning all the burrs out of here. It's all nice now. I even took the jaws over to the grinder, and they even, some of these had some, you could see the metal was pushed over when they, like a burr on it. I ground all that stuff down. I stoned all these jaws. There's nothing sharp in these jaws at all. It's like a completely different chuck. It's just night and day difference. I mean, the handle, it's all smooth now. It's beautiful. But I put like I said, I put the reamer in there, and when I put the jaws together, that's a pretty precision reamer. There's wiggle in it. Okay, if I hold them together, there's wiggle in the thing. It's not, the jaws haven't been ground flat. If you push the jaws together like that, see if I can get that right. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. I put light on there, and I shine the light through here. You can see that the jaws, I don't know if you can see it or not, but the jaws, at the top, there's gaps. And I realize the jaws they're curved like this, but still you can see totally through them at the tops, and the tops aren't touching at all. When you bring this thing, the top right here, when I had that chucked up in the chuck, I could take a piece of cigarette paper and slide it down in there, so I knew it was at least 1/1000th of an inch. That there wasn't even the top part of the tooth wasn't even touching at all. This one right here wasn't touching at all, and you could tell it was somewhere right here where it was touching. If you take the little square right over here and you lay it in the jaws, and you go like this right here, and you can wiggle it. It's not, if you put it on the side of the jaw, it's flat. You can tell it. It's flat. I mean, it's just totally flat. But if you put it on this part of the jaw right here, it pivots real easy. There's a hump in the middle of the jaws. So somewhere right in the middle of this thing, it's higher. So that's why whenever I tighten my jaws up, it's hitting in the middle, but not hitting on either end. So it's allowing the part to kick one way or the other. It's not holding it true. So my plan is to set this thing up in such a fashion on the surface grinder, on its edge. Okay, it's going to be set up like this, and this grinding chuck I got right here is going to be bolted to the back of it, right in the middle, like so. There's I don't have it over here. I'm going to slide a pin through this hole, put a bolt through there, through the back of the grinding chuck to hold this thing all flat and true. And then on the other side right here, I got this big precision ground square, this thing right here. I'm going to bolt this to it also. I'm not sure which hole lines up. I think it's this one here. And bolt this sandwiches all like that. Set it on the surface grinder and put a stop on here and drop the jaws of the chuck into here like this, so they're held up a certain height, and grind, and then bring the grinding wheel across the jaws to clean them off, and just keep swapping them out. That should make these jaws perfectly 90 degrees to the face of this shoulder right here. And I'll make it this all bolted up and everything, and I'll give you a picture of it on the grinder. But that's what I'm planning on doing this thing, is trying to grind these things. I mean, you can grind a 3-jaw chuck with a ring on there, but you can't do that with a 4-jaw because the jaws are all over the place. But this way, all I'm trying to do is get this jaw square with the slight curve in there, with the radius of the wheel, so they're all running 90 degrees. So it's all 90 degrees to this thing right here, and then they're all flat straight across. So let me get this all set up. I'll get the grinder, get it setting on the grinder, bolted on, and I'll come back with a video and I'll show you how this turns out, and we'll check it over there on the thing and see how this, see how it works out. But right now, my only disappointment with this chuck at all is the fact that I think that they've got a hump in the middle of these jaws right here. because they're just not sitting flat. Everything else in the thing, you know, for the price of it, it's cheap, but I'll tell you what, they don't spend any time deburring any of this stuff. And if you're going to buy one of these chucks, I highly recommend you just take it apart, clean it all thoroughly, and get your little files out and get your little stones out, and it's just clean all the burrs out of this stuff. Deburr these jaws, deburr that chuck. It's a totally different chuck when you do that. I mean, you put the jaws in there now, and they just slide in real easy, just real easy, just as purty as could be. And they were tight in there before. They come out tight because of all the grinding dust and stuff in there. It's totally clean now. But everything slides beautiful right now. And to get the jaws, to get these screws out of here, this screw that goes in here, this goes in the hole, and then this thing right here is what the screw pushes against. When you tighten the jaw up, it's pushing against this thing right here. So all you gotta do is take a screwdriver, a thin blade screwdriver, and set it on the tip of that right there, that little thing right there, and just tap it out. It comes right out. They go in from the back. There's just a slight little bit of, you know, it's not really hard to get it out, but they just tap right in, tap right out. That's how you can get these out of there, in case you're wondering how to get them out. That one don't seem to fit that hole real good. This thing even here had a burr, and I filed all the burrs out of there and used a stone on there and everything, cleaned all that stuff up. Get this thing where there's no burrs on it nowhere. That one's going right in there. I say it's going right in. It's still a little bit snug. It's right. Okay, it's all the way in now. It slides right in the back, and that's what holds your screw. And when you put your backing plate on, that holds that pin in place so it doesn't come back out. That's what all the force is being pushed against. But even when you put the jaws in there now and turn it, everything it's just as smooth, you know, smooth as could be, because it's all deburred, all cleaned up, and it's just so much nicer to handle. Let me get this thing all set up on the surface grinder. And like I said, I'll come back with you, and we'll see how that's going to turn out. We'll check that too. Anyway, you know, you buy one of these chucks for, they don't, $150 or something, you know, $100, whatever you pay for it. They can't spend, you know, I spent 4.5 hours deburring this thing. Well, they can't spend 4.5 hours deburring a chuck and sell it for that price. So I'm not, you know, I'm happy with what they've done. You know, even though I had to deburr it, I'm still happy with it. Once I get these jaws ground, I'm going to be totally thrilled with it for the price. But you know, you can't expect this thing to come to you perfect, all totally done for that kind of money. It's just, you know. But anyway, that's where we're at right now, and we got everything checked out. Everything's looking pretty good. And let me get the thing set up, and I'll come back with you. Here's the setup I come up with. Got to put it on the grinder yet. I guess you can see that. I had a parallel stuck underneath it. At first I took and bolted this grinding vise in the back of here. I took the jaw out so I could have clearance, and then I took and bolted I squared the groove with a parallel in this thing right here. I laid a parallel with this in the groove, and I squared the groove and bolted that on. And then I took and bolted this here on here, because this here was holding it flat and square. And then what I did was took two parallels. I set one underneath this angle right here, and I set one underneath this part of the vise to raise it all up. I dropped this, then I took the bolt loose and let this here drop down so it hit the table. Then I left the parallel underneath this part, and then I took and pulled the one out from this angle right here and dropped it down the table so it would stay square. And then I bolted this piece here on so this here couldn't, you know, this couldn't move on here and raise up. It's got two things holding down. This one's touching right here, and the jaw is going to wind up when I go grind the jaws. These 1, 2, 3 blocks and this 1 by 1 block right here is going to sit right there. I'll take the jaws and I'll simply drop them down into where they touch right there. Bring the grinder across this way. The wheel's spinning, and I'll just real lightly skim this across here. Get that one done. Swap the jaws. Do the next one, and so forth. And that should straighten these jaws out. Once again, I'll show you what I'm talking about. This you put that little square in here, the jaw it's pivoting right now. It's pivoting back here. Nothing's touching up here. Nothing's touching the very end one right here. Okay, it's not. You can actually feel just a little bit of rock in there too. So the jaw's not flat across here. So you tighten your parts up. Since that's not flat, you know, it's not going to hold it straight out. It can wiggle around anywhere it wants to go. That's what the problem I'm having right now. It's not lined up straight. But that's, yeah, it's you can see how it's. I mean, it's moving real easy right there. It's got a hump in the jaw's got a hump in the middle, which needs to be removed. Okay, so I'm gonna put this on the grinder and try one, give it a good skim. It shouldn't. With this flat over here, no more than I'm gonna be grinding on this, and this big flat over here, enough weight this thing has, I can't see I can't see it being pushed. We've got just a little bit over. My grinder's a 6x18, and we've got just a little bit over 6 inches wide here, so it should fit on the grinding table fine, and everything should work out slick. Hopefully, keep the fingers crossed. I get the grinder going. I'll come back again. Take about 4 thousandths off of here. Get the old grind marks to clean up. Coming down another 1,000. A couple more passes, leaving the cellars out until it sparks out. Okay, let's take this thing out of here now. That's flat. It even feels flat with a square on it now. No gaps at all. I mean, you can feel it rubbing on each end. That's flat. I don't know if you can see the shine on that jaw, but it did a nice job in the grinding the jaw. Here's the one I just ground. Here's the one that's not been ground. I guess you can see that. Let's see once. Yeah, you can, and this here is all. You can see the grind marks in here where this looks nice and slick. It's just night and day difference. Night and day difference. Yeah, you got a little rock in there. This has not been ground yet. Okay, let me get these other two ground, and I'll meet you back over at the dividing head. We'll check it out, see what happens. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. This is the last jaw that I've been working on, and let me get a little pointer. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a spot. I've ground across here a couple times, going down a tenth at a time. There's a spot right here that's not been touched yet in the middle. Okay, this jaw, this one right here is cleaned up totally. This one's cleaned up totally. This right here is not cleaned up in the middle. This is not cleaned up in the middle. This is not cleaned up from about there to about there. And this one here, just a little tiny bit of the edges is cleaned up. So the middle's all gone, and the end's right here. There's nothing ground here, nothing ground there, and there's nothing ground in this part right here. So the jaws were not ground flat. Now I believe that's what my problem is. I hope you can see that. But I'm going to go back and finish this last jaw, and then we'll put the chuck together and test it out and see what kind of indicator we're reading when we get on that. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that, you know, hopefully you can see that angle on there where it's not totally ground on there. It's kind of probably hard to see, but we'll see how it turns out. I went and colored the jaws so you could probably get a better idea of what I'm talking about here now. If you can see the red, I don't know if you can see the red on there or not. There's a little tip of red, a little bit on that, right in the middle of this jaw right here. There's a little bit of red. These two right here are totally cleaned up. A little speck of red right there on that one, and it just keeps getting bigger as you go down this way. So the middle was high. These two right here were totally high. This one here is just about cleaned up. So there's no way this could hold it apart totally true, because it had a hump in the middle right in there. These two right here were the highest ones, but there's just no way. But I want to hopefully be able to get a better picture of that so you can see what I was talking about. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Anyway, back to the grinder. I'll get this one finished. We'll put it back on the chuck and on the indexing head and see what it turns out there with the dial gauge. Okay, I got the chuck put back on the dividing head now. It's right, you know, right below the head chuck here. I'll show you that in a second. And I can zoom out and get that. The dividing head sitting underneath it. This thing's sitting on my milling machine, and I got the same piece of metal, the reamer, that high-speed steel reamer that's in the chuck. I got my gauge on right here. Okay, we'll rotate this and see where it's at this far from the jaws, and we'll come up here and we'll take another reading higher up. Oops, can't see that right here. We're going to take another reading higher up on the shaft so we can see what kind of runout we got up there. Right now I'm going to rotate this thing though, and we started out about 0. And it's still pretty close to 0. I think we just about made it all the way around. It's definitely, I'll turn this dial right here a little bit so you can see that it's, you know, it's touching it. It's definitely on the shaft. And if I push on this right here, see the needle meter read? So it's definitely on the shaft. I've got it, that's just a little bit off there. Oops, right there. Nope. That's pretty close. I got it dialed in pretty good for no run out. I mean, very, very microscopic amount. Okay. This thing, when I put it up above before, it had 5 thousandths run out. I had about a half here, and then went up top and had 5 thousandths run out. All right, I'm gonna move it back up now. I'll move the indicator back up higher. Right here, it's closer to the top right here. All right, and we got contact. Okay, let's bring it back to 0. And it's right there. It's pretty close. Let me bring this back in a little bit. I'll raise this thing up. Okay. Hopefully you can see that indicator. Not got too much glare on it. I don't know. Alright, we're going to start cranking around now. We were on 0. And we're at 1/2 thousandth. Okay. Negative. Now we're going to what? Just not quite a 1/2 thousandth positive. Okay. Back to 0. So we got just about a tiny bit less than 1 thousandth run out on that shaft now, and about 3 inches difference in height. 1/2 thousand, I mean, not quite 1 thousandth run out. I can live with that, but when this thing was running 5 thousandths out up here, it was, you know, unusable. This is great now. I can use it now. So grinding these jaws, setting it up the way I did, and grinding the jaws has made a major difference in this chuck. I've got something I can use now. Anyway, thank you for your time. You guys like this thing, you know, give me a thumbs up if you would. I appreciate it.